We had received a call that there were some people that were trapped on Baskins Creek. I'm not even sure if we knew at the time how many was trapped. Once we got up there, I don't think we initially seen anyone, but we were met with a gentleman up there that had told us further information that there were some people that were trapped in their vehicles in the road on Baskin Creek. It was just a decision that had to be made. I mean, we all looked back at each other, and I mean, it's like we didn't hesitate. We just went in. We knew what we were going into. We could see it. You could feel it. You could smell it. And we went in, and once we actually made contact, we seen that there were some individuals up there in some vehicles. I looked down at one point, and the bumper had already started melting on one of the vehicles, and there were individuals still inside of it, just waiting to be, gotten out. It gives me a lot of pride. Just working with the brothers and sisters, on the same team and from other agencies. A lot of times people look at us as doing, specializing in one or two things, and they may not have any idea that we do this as well. And, for people to be able to see that, I mean, this is what it's all about. We were able to go in there and get 10 people out and some animals and some of their belongings that, they may not have made it out.
Operation Grizzly Bear was a combined operation with Memphis PD, Shelby County Sheriff's Department. And what we did was we brought troopers from across the state of Tennessee to assist with manpower issues, and we basically put a task force together to combat the traffic issues we were having here in Shelby County. We were having a lot of pedestrian crashes, and we also wanted to give Memphis PD some assistance where they could focus on combating violent crimes here in the city of Memphis. So with the personnel that the command staff allotted to come down here to Shelby County for 6 months, we were able to reduce the fatality rates here in Shelby County and also assist Memphis in them fighting violent crime here in the city of Memphis. It was very successful. I think even though our fatality numbers were higher than they were in 2015, I believe with the colonel and the commissioner, Bill Gibbons, at that time coming up with a plan to help combat the violent crime here in Memphis and also help us with the traffic problems that we were having, I believe if we wouldn't have done this operation, the fatality rate here in Shelby County would have been far more than what it ended up being in 2016. So overall, I believe it was a great success. I think it's probably a model that the command staff will look at to use in the future throughout the state where we're having issues with violent crimes and also increased fatalities in the area.
We were up at 2, had to leave the hotel by 3, had to be on post by 4. We were lucky to get a couple of breaks in, got a little lunch, and then after that we had to stand for a very long time, and it was dark by the time we left. There was a lot of excitement. Like I said, over 3,000 people from agencies all over the country were there for one job. People were excited to see one another, get to know one another, swap badges, swap coins. It was a great experience. Changing the guard was something I've always heard about and was so excited to see. It was very beautiful. It was very respectful. It just shows you what people did to serve our country and how we pay our respects towards them. We were assigned with watching the people. We were not supposed to look to the actual parade route, so when watching the people's reactions as he's got out, I knew he was behind us and walking because people were yelling and chanting his name, and the whole assignment was a great experience.
Just coming into work with power shift 6 to 2, like any other day, holiday, checking the roads. And about 3 miles into Wilson County, I was traveling west, and what appeared to be on the eastbound side was a car fire, and I seen the traffic stop. So I figured it was a traffic stop just because they didn't want to go around it. A little bit further behind it, I seen another car fire. The first one was fully engulfed, and then the second one was starting to catch on fire and get worse, and I radioed to dispatch across the median. As I pulled around behind it, I noticed there was a driver still in it, and there was motors to stop, trying to pull him out, trying to free him from the vehicle. He was trapped in it. So I grabbed my fire extinguisher from the back, ran up to it, and there was flames coming into the cab from the engine all around the vehicle. And I knocked the flames down enough to where I could attempt to pull them out. And when I grabbed the door, it was jammed shut. So I motioned for the people behind me to help me pull them out. And we got him pulled out and pulled him into the median. And just as we got him out, within seconds, the vehicle just exploded, fully engulfed in flames.
It was very hectic, trying to keep track of where our troopers were, trying to make sure their welfare was taken care of, that the citizens, the phone calls we were getting from them, trying to get help to them, make sure they're okay. A lot of times, there were quite a few we didn't know the outcome, and for quite a few days didn't know if they were still alive or anything like that. We had one gentleman that the dispatcher Dowd had taken a call from and had talked to multiple times. We tried to get troopers up to him and couldn't get anybody up there to them because of the fires. Everywhere they went, they couldn't get there. And he was one that we wondered about. And it was 5 or 6 days later, he actually called in and told us that they had made it out. And they appreciated everything we did here with them that night because we were the only ones they could get to. One of our dispatchers, Dispatcher Dowd, her sister, actually lost her house and everything they had in the fire. She had to go home and break the news to her sister that they had lost their house and everything, all their belongings. I do know that she was very upset having to be the one to tell her that. You never think it can happen here. You hear it out west all the time, in Rockies and everything, but you know, we've never had anything this close to home, this bad here. And it brings everything to home, makes you realize what you have and what you don't have.
It's unlocked a lot of crashes that we see because a lot of the crashes we see are on the interstates, and you don't have the general public around. This crash, when I pulled up on the crash scene, you know, neighbors are coming out of their houses. You know, and you know, they're all looking in anticipation. News media is everywhere, and I would say there's probably 100 police officers there on scene, county deputies, city officers, highway patrol. I've actually been riding on the Woodmore route that crashed. Those kids, some of the kids that are on the bus, have been on the bus even when the bus crashed originally. So I've been riding that route. This week when I rode the bus, you could see the difference in the kids' faces. Also, we're getting more kids starting to ride that particular bus route than was riding before, months before this. So, you know, they still are cautious. You could see it on the kids' face. But, you know, Chattanooga's put a good driver driving their route that the kids like. And with us being on the bus, you know, I think it's helped a lot with the confidence, and plus it gives us a chance to reach those inner city children that typically the highway patrol doesn't see. A lot of times when I go to schools, inner city schools, those kids will ask me, well, are you a sheriff's department? You know, they know who the sheriff's department is, they know who Chattanooga City is, but they don't know who the highway patrol is. Well, now those kids that I ride that bus with know who the highway patrol is.
I tried 3 different times to actually get on the highway patrol. I was a city officer for almost 5 years before I came on the highway patrol. Almost debated not continuing that path, and I came to Class 512's graduation and actually watching them march in, the cadence, how squared away everything was. And I realized that is my goal, that is my path. And I started that journey when I was 2 years old after having neighbors that were troopers and seeing them on a daily basis and really want to do that. But then that solidified it for me, wanting to do it. Then with the IACP and seeing all the different agencies and departments and stuff from across the world and realizing how much bigger it is just in the highway patrol, that was really eye-opening. But then meeting some of the colonels from across the nation, but to see how much respect they have for our department as a whole. We hear it all the time at the lower level as a trooper, but you know, you kind of expect to get told that. But then to hear it from other agencies, how really, I hate to say great, but great we really are as the Highway Patrol, it really meant a lot. I was fortunate in 2014, my first full year getting Trooper of the Year for the district. Finished the year with 110 DUIs, then followed it up with 156 DUIs and Trooper of the Year for the district again. Was more than thrilled with that. And then of course when we got District of the Year, I was thrilled. And then to get Trooper of the Year was just really a total shock. But maintaining a high conviction rate, still, you know, issuing a lot of seatbelt citations and regular moving, hazards moving across the board. Overall numbers were pretty solid. So, but just fortunate more than anything.
The Chattanooga District received information on a subject wanted for aggravated rape from the Nashville District. And we had troopers in the area on I-24 at the Georgia-Tennessee state line. A few minutes later, after the BOLO we received, our IP troopers were in the area and had a visual on the subject crossing the state line, at which point they fell in behind the subject as he was driving aggressively into our district, into Chattanooga. I was the on-call supervisor at the time, the only supervisor 10-8, and dispatch called me here at the district headquarters, and our admin sergeant, Sergeant Jim Van Dyke, was able to pull up all of TDOT's cameras, every camera on the interstate. So at that point in time, I was actually watching the pursuit as it was happening through downtown Chattanooga and how aggressive he was driving and the congestion of the traffic. Troopers were involved behind him visually, and he failed to stop.
On that particular day, I was on the right lane. There's a car that ended up in front of me during this chase. And I tried to avoid the car, but as I tried to avoid the car, I looked to my right, and I did see four heads. I'm not sure ages, I'm not sure gender, and at that split second, if I went straight, I would have rammed those cars. I would have potentially killed everyone in that car.
Trooper Napo avoided a collision with a motorist and did a evasive action to avoid the collision and went airborne.
Avoid hitting the bridge directly, but ended up crashing out my car and totaling my car.
And almost was killed in that crash. It was within inches of being killed in that crash. The pursuit proceeded on past him, and at the right point, Captain Mosley gave permission to take the subject out. And at that time, the trooper was able to maneuver his car into a position to where he rammed the other vehicle and stopped the pursuit. No one was hurt. That's the number one thing. No one was seriously hurt.
I guess that's what this job is about, that fight or flight. You're either gonna choose to save people or choose to injure yourself instead. At that split second, I think that's what being a THP is all about. It's being a state trooper is saving people instead of endangering people.